Hello everyone, I'm Mark. Welcome back to our channel. I'm here today with my brother Pat. Hello. And what we're going to be doing today is he brought over a couple machines that he purchased, and one of them's a stick welder and the other one's a plasma arc. I'm going to show you the two machines right now and kind of explain to you what we're going to be doing. Sorry about that, I'm trying to get my viewfinder to go from front to back. Okay. First off, this plasma he got, he bought it at a school auction. It's a Hypotherm PowerMax 600. If you're not familiar with plasma machines, a Hypotherm is probably the Cadillac of the plasma cutters, and it's top of the line. They're a little more expensive than most of the other ones out there. I mean, you can get some decent ones a lot cheaper, but if you're doing a lot of cutting, you definitely want a Hypotherm. They're really good machines. Now, this is an older machine, but it's in really good shape. He got it really reasonably. We were going to fire it up and do some cutting with it here. It's the first time he's tried to use it, and we're having a little electrical issue with it, so we're going to have to open it up and just see what it is. I think it's something pretty minor because everything else seems to be working on it. The other machine he bought new, and it is a square wave stick welder, and it's looks like let me see here. Looks like it's, I don't know if you can see it on camera, it's Amico Power brand, and it's a pretty nice machine. It's with a square wave inverter type welder, so they're tiny. I mean, this thing's about the size of two shoe boxes, and I'm old school. I'm used to ones that weigh as much as a Mack truck, and it's still, for me, it's hard to get used to looking at a box this size and comparing it to the old heavy welders of the day. But these are supposed to do just as good, actually a little bit better job because of the square wave and inverter power to them. So I don't remember, what would you say this was, Pat, as far as amperage? This is a 200 amp machine?
200 amp machine.
Okay, so it'll do 200 amps and 175 amps at 100% duty cycle, or 80%?
170 amp at 100% duty cycle.
Okay, which is excellent. I mean, that, in theory, you could run this machine all day long, because about the only time you go on that high would be if you're air arcing or something like that. As far as just normal stick welding, 1/8 inch, 7018, you know, you're going to run about 120 amps or so. So anyway, let me set the camera down. We're going to set up and do a little bit of welding with it, just see how it works out. So just bear with me for a second here. Okay. I got this piece of square tubing just clamped to the table. What we're going to do first is just run some flat beads on it just to see how it flows. I'll set it on try going about 100 and around 110 just to start. I'm not sure what this arc force is. Do you know what that is?
It supposedly keeps your rod from sticking.
Okay.
When you first start the arc, and even getting close with your weld, it'll push the rod away and not allow it to stick.
Okay, so the higher the number, the easier it is to start an arc.
Yes, yes.
If any of you are familiar with welding, with especially low hydrogen rods, you have to kind of strike an arc with them, and sometimes if you're not quick, you know, it'll stick to your part and you're sitting there wiggling trying to get it off. This arc force control, Pat's saying, is kind of helps eliminate that. I've never used that before. I didn't even know they had it on machines. So we'll play around. We'll start out with 0 arc force and see how it is to strike an arc, and then we'll keep moving it up and see if it gets any better. So let me get the rod out here. Okay, we're using 7018 1/8 inch low hydrogen rod, and this, if you're doing any serious welding, you want to at least go with 7018. Depending on what you're doing, you could even go 11018, or there's some other alloy rods you can use. They have like 6011, 6013 rods, which we call them farmer rods, because most times farmers had an old cheap AC welder, and you can't run low hydrogen on AC. You got to run it on DC reverse. So farmers, they have AC welders, so they needed a rod they could weld their, you know, their tongue back on their wagon, or shafts broken or anything. So they use 6011, 6013, and if you weld with 6013 or 6011, you can almost just lay it down and start welding. It won't stick like this does. But it's not near strong, it's not near as pretty a weld, and it's a quick, easy fix. But if you want something to hold, you want to weld it with this stuff. So let's see what we can do here. You want me to stick it first, or you want to stick it?
You go ahead and stick it.
You're gonna let me
stick it,
stick
brother.
it? Okay. I can't remember the last time I stick welded. It's been a while.
Me neither.
Okay, let's see what happens here. See how it sticks? Yeah, it's like.
I'm gonna increase that just a little bit. Your force.
Yeah, I need to turn that down to about
I'm gonna increase
100
it
amps
just a
because
little
this tubing's
bit.
so thin. Okay, let me put this way where I can support myself. I don't like that. It's like it just quits welding. That's weird. I start welding, and then as soon as I start welding it, like it just shuts off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, normally, once you strike an arc with 7018, you want to hold it down close, because if you do pull away, you'll lose your arc. If you go in too close, it'll stick. But once you start welding and get it going, it should just flow right in there. And it starts to, and then it just, like the machine shuts off almost. So let me try again. That's better. You got to really get this cranked up there, I guess.
Except what the amperage was just too high.
Yeah. It's, look at burnt right through that. It's
At
only
least we know it doubles
16 gauge tubing.
doubles the cutting torque.
Yeah, if I turn the amperage down to 100 amps, it won't weld. I was trying to weld right on the edge, so I'm welding through the side also, but it's
thicker.
still,
Nice looking, but it's a little hot, isn't it?
yeah, that's 127. Let me go down to 120 and see. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but my hearing aids are back feeding. Anytime I put a welding helmet on, it blocks my hearing aids and makes them back feed.
What'd you say?
I'm going to set two of them together and try to. Yeah, you get it down too low there. Crank that all the way up and see what happens. I don't understand that. Let me get a, hold on, let me get a little heavier piece of metal. See if we,
See how heavier weld works. I like that.
let me turn that off. That is weird.
That's your work.
Oh. That'll make a difference. Let's see.
Okay.
You gotta have it on DC reverse. No, it still just stops.
No.
Why is it doing that? Is this an AC or is it an AC-DC?
Supposed to be DC. The DC welder.
It's a DC welder?
Mm-hmm.
Because it shouldn't be doing that.
What if you try a 6013 rod?
I don't see where on here what it says what it is. Let me, I don't know if I got any. It's a little bit heavier 6013 rod.
Yeah.
On AC you run positive electrode. On DC reverse you run a negative electrode. So I don't understand how this switches from AC to DC automatically. How does it know what rod you're doing? See, that's even sticking. It'll run 6011. I wonder if that's just an AC machine.
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah, it'll run 6013.
You were showing them, you know, what types of rods they're using on the demonstration.
It's almost like it's the flux is overpowering the rod itself. You got to really force that rod down into that arc.
Should you have to run 171 amp?
I mean, to do that, I did. Let me try something. I mean, on my stick welder, if you run 110, 120 amps, you get that kind of heat in the weld. So maybe that you have to crank it up higher to get that, but it was melting away that. I'm gonna try turning it back, but it just won't.
That's crazy.
You see how it keeps stopping?
Yeah, it does.
It's like I got them kind of play with a little bit. I mean, it makes a nice.
That was trying to stop too, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. You're welding along where I would normally have my rod, and it'll go out, and I got to push it down till it touches an arc, and if I hold it there, it won't go. I got to lift it a little bit, and it'll go a little bit, and then it stops, and you got to kind of keep floating with it at that 100. Let's try 160.
That slag should just pop. Should just almost come off on its own.
Yeah, once it cools down, a lot of times it'll peel
That
up.
should peel. That's not even. That should peel up. I wonder.
Ooh, did it melt in there?
I wonder what was burnt. I'm holding this going, what's that? I don't know what happened. But
Always wear gloves when you're welding.
I didn't know that. Nice. Yeah, isn't that funny? That fell down onto that.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't tell me I had to wear gloves.
That's going really good.
Did you crank up the amperage?
I bumped it up to 163. Let me go back down and see if I can just lay. I'm coming in burning and trying to get penetration. Let me try welding where it's resting on the flux a little bit more and see if it'll keep going that way. Nope.
No.
It just peters out.
Yeah.
Do you have a book on this that tells you what amperage is around what size rod or anything like that?
No.
I don't know if I have these small rods. This is stainless. I don't know what this stuff is.
I should have brought some rods. Ooh.
Oh, that's 6013. We don't want that. There we go. What is this stuff? This is smaller. 70. Oh, let's try this. This is low hydrogen. 7014. It's a smaller rod.
Okay.
The only bad thing is, any low hydrogen rod, you can't let it get moisture in the flux. It'll draw moisture sitting out, and you can see this is 100 years old. So this might not weld really good even if it was welding correctly, because it's going to have moisture in the flux. So let's see what it does. Yeah, see how it's spitting and sputtering? We've got a lot of moisture in it. That weld's really good. You might have to go, which most of your stuff are going to be sheet metal and stuff anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So 3/32 rod will probably be fine for that, and then get you some 1/8" rod if you're going to be welding anything, you know, thicker, and then crank it up, because you can see you're getting nice penetration. It's not undercutting or anything, so it's not too hot. So it might just be just a thing that, you know, this thing's a little more touchy with the size of rod you use it for. But this is burning in really good, even with this at 100 amps. So that looks really nice. In the 7018s. I'm showing some of the welds. See this weld right there, that's 7014. This is 1/8" 7018. And then I got up into the, I think it was 5/32 maybe, or 3/16 6013 rod over here. And that actually welded really good for 60 rod. Usually you don't get that nice of a weld. Nice, I mean, it's more of a, almost like a flux core when you weld with flux core wire, but all those welds look pretty good. So, but it seems to me like with having, is that rod? Doesn't look too bad. I'm a little shaky because I'm almost standing here freehand. For me, I almost need to lean against a table or rest my hand against a clamp or something as I'm welding, just keep me from weaving back and forth. So if I was more stabilized, it'd probably look a little better than that. But yeah, so it looks to me like what we're finding out is this particular welder anyway, it's a little touchy as far as the size of rod you're welding with, actually. And it seems like, I don't know if it's because it's an inverter. I hope you can see me on the screen. I don't know if it's because it's the square wave inverter type welder that you have to run the amperage a little bit hotter. I've never welded with an inverter welder before. I've always used just a plain old AC/DC current welder. So it's probably a little bit of a learning curve, but it's welding really good once you get it set for the rod you have. So I think it'd just be a matter of playing around with it and learning. You know, you're going to have 2 or 3 different size rods, probably like 3/36 and 1/8" at least. I think 1/8" would do you just fine on heavier stuff. Even this plate here, I think that's 5/16 or 3/8 thick steel. So that would probably work just as good with 1/8" rod, because when you crank it up to get it where it flows nice, I mean, you're getting serious penetration with it. So I think it welds good. It's just a matter.
You want to buy it? Cheap.
I have 4 welders now. Diane would probably kill me if I bought
Can't have too many
welders.
welders.
So, but I think play around with it a little bit here. We're gonna play around a little bit more with the welder here. I think that kind of gives you an idea of these little welders, what they're capable of. Honestly, I think it's a really good welder. It's just a matter of learning the correct way to operate it. You know, it's a little bit different than running like my AC/DC. I've got a Miller-Matic over there. It's probably 35 years old, and it weighs. I mean, you have to lift it with a forklift. This thing here, you can throw over your shoulder and carry it wherever you want. So there's just difference on how you have to set the amperages, and I'm not sure how this is reading when I have it set on 105 amps. If that's a true 105 amps compared to 105 amps on the Miller. So I don't think it's a bad machine or incapable of doing what you'd want it to do. It's just learning the settings on it, and that you might have to change rod diameters to do the lower amperages. So But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. We had a good time doing it. And like I always say, if you like our videos, subscribe and share them with a friend. And we'll see you on the next video. Have a great day. So try that on that thinner material and see if it blows through like it did with the 8-inch.
We're only at 100. Oh, this is, yeah, smaller rod.
See, that did pretty good. Try going down just a little bit more. Let me dig that out of that.
I guess it doesn't matter. I've grabbed it, but what the hell?
Yeah, I dropped it down 10 inches. And try to stay like right on the edge. It's thicker so it won't burn through as easy. Just see what that does. Oops.